Welcome, my friends, to the showdown between the Dwarves, who shall be led by the High King Thorgrim. And today, guys, we're going to be facing off against the Foul Tomb Kings, who shall be led by Arkin the Black on his evil cackling necromancer chariot. So as far as the build goes, here in the front line, it's going to be a combination of the Dwarf Warriors and Longbeards, and Longbeards are just such anchors in this matchup. So firstly, these bad boys have 100 armor, so they're going to be very tough for most of the Tomb King's infantry to kill. Tomb Guards, Skeleton Warriors, Skeleton Spears all have really bad AP values, plus not the best melee attack, and on top of that, these guys have a rock hard 48 melee defense. Very, very good, but most importantly, they're immune to psychology. You can see here they do have that lovely tooltip, which is really good against Tomb Scorpions, Khemrian War Sphinxes, and that's one of the ways Dwarves can have problems here. If they come in with the Khemrian War Sphinx, Tomb Scorpions, a lot of shock damage from chariots coming in, you can actually get terror routed off, even though you have really good leadership. So Dwarf Warriors and Miners are good in this matchup, but I really do like having a combination of Longbeards and Dwarf Warriors. So there's going to be two of those bad boys in the front line, three groups of Dwarf Warriors as well, which are good for pretty much the same reasons. Relatively good armor values, high melee defense, and again, Tomb Kings, as it pertains to the infantry fight, really do lack AP. So that's going to be it here in the front. On top of that, we do have two groups of Runesmiths, or not groups, but two units of Runesmiths, or two individual single entities. And these guys are staples as well. They do have the Runes of Wrath and Ruin, and being able to slow down, the Dwarves have a big issue with mobility, right? It's really hard to deal with cycle charging from chariots and single entities, Tomb Scorpions, War Sphinxes, all that nasty stuff. So having a slowing ability here in the form of the Rune and Wrath and Ruin is just so essential. 72% speed, certainly not bad at all. On top of that, we have three guns in the back, so three groups of the Thunders. They're going to be peppering chariots, going after Tomb Scorpions, all that good stuff. You guys get it. Pretty much the standard stuff there. On top of that, two Slayers, and I really do like the Giant Slayers. I think Dragonback Slayers are a must because of their slow and just how good they are, but also having the Giant Slayers I think is better than regular Slayers in this matchup, because again, you're going to be dealing with constructs. I don't know about the armor values on chariots. Let's actually go ahead and check here. It's 50, so having the AP is somewhat pertinent there, but nonetheless, having the Giant Slayers to take out Tomb Scorpions and all that good stuff is really good. And yeah, if you look here, the Tomb Scorpion does have 50 speed, and Giant Slayers, I think, have 40. But if you do use the Rune of Wrath and Ruin, I mean, man, you can hunt down that Scorpion. They can just give it the dirty business for sure. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I do have High King Thorgrim as well, and I really actually like him quite a bit. He is a bit of a magnet for Ushapti Greatbow Fire and things like that, but you don't really see Ushapti Greatbow too much in this matchup. I think that he's a pretty safe pick. And more importantly, he has high mass, so he can fight the constructs. He hits like an absolute truck. And the Oath of Vengeance is actually really good. So if your Slayers are fighting something, for example, so if the Slayers are fighting a Tomb Scorpion, you pop the Oath of Vengeance on that bad boy, and it's going to put their melee defense down too. Let's go ahead and check. Yeah, really, really low. It's going to be like sub-10s, which is really, really nice there. So Thorgrim's there. The Screaming Meme Catapults dropping some sweet bombardments on my formation. Definitely a pretty wild build for my opponent. And in the back, we do have a cannon, plus some miners of blasting charges to defend it. So we'll see how that goes. So for my opponent's build, very unorthodox. Just totally out of the box here. He's got a Tomb Scorpion, which is standard. I think double Tomb Scorpion plus like a Lord on a Sphinx or a Chariot is usually something that you will see in this matchup. But the Tomb Scorpion lies in wait, looking to ambush my forces. On top of that, a whole back line of chaff, so just going for Skeleton Warriors and some Skeleton Spears. Skeleton Spears do have pretty good melee defense, and that's often why I think people will bring them against Dwarves, because typically it doesn't make sense, right? Why bring Spears against a faction that doesn't really have any large units, but they do have higher melee defense, so they'll hold for longer compared to like Skeleton Warriors with the Sword and Shield here. So a bunch of Screaming Meme Catapults. He actually has 4 of these bad boys, and they're really cheap. I'm quite eager to see how they do. I mean, I'm sure you guys will be, but yeah, they have good AP values, but they do magic damage, so there is going to be some mitigation of the damage they do, but they're dirt cheap, so it does force me forward, which is going to make my cannon a little bit vulnerable, because I couldn't afford to sit there and just kind of trade my one cannon with his 4 Screaming Meme Catapults. So I had to force forward, be pushed forward here, which is going to make him a little bit more able to kind of surround me and get to the weak parts of my army, but I still don't think it's like optimal, but it still, has some teeth. On top of that, he does have Arkin the Black on the chariot. I'm not sure where he is. I think he's lurking in the shadows here. So yeah, here's the force here. So it's going to be Arkin with Spirit Leech, Doom of Darkness, plus the Purple Sun. Won't you come and wipe away the rain? He does also have Skeleton Chariots, and I think there's 2 down here. Yeah, 2 Skeleton Chariots, Car Horsemen and Skeleton Horsemen kind of peppered around the map, and that's pretty much it. So we're going to be advancing here. The Screaming Meme Catapults dropping some serious firepower into my Thunders and actually doing a little bit of damage. I've taken 6 casualties here, another 3 right here, and they do have a leadership penalty. So with Doom of Darkness, they can force off Dwarves quicker than, they normally would be. But anyways, I couldn't see these, Arkin and the Chariots down here out of the gates. I had no idea they were there. So I was like, what is he hiding? Does he just have a bunch of Tomb Scorpions hiding in the trees? I had no idea. But the first Tomb Scorpion is going to be emerging, coming forward to run a little bit of interference. So I do have the Slayers nearby. I have the Giant Slayer, so I will be dropping a Rune of Wrath and Ruin on this bad boy just to kind of slow him down. So my opponent obviously wanted to come in and then pull back, but the Rune of Wrath and Ruin is so brutal. Like, look, he just cannot get away. 14 speed. The Giant Slayers are coming in with a full chub here, and they're going to be able to drag that guy down. So it's certainly going to be a very good opening situation. In the meantime, on the other side, Chariots are coming in. So one Chariot slams into these Miners here, and the Thunders are going to be turning about face, but the Screaming Meme Catapults actually generating some decent value, and on the other side, Arkin the Black is going to be coming in as well. So the Dragonback Slayers will be responding in kind. Rune of Wrath and Ruin has been dropped, but a really good skeleton summon for my opponent. That was pretty masterclass for sure. Dropping that skeleton warrior there actually blocks my Slayers from getting on the good targets, and now Slayers are fighting skeletons, which is a pretty terrible situation because he's going to be trading just chaff for HP and potentially models off my Slayers. So very, very good stuff there. Now, in the meantime, in the front line, my Longbeards and other troops are saturating in. Some of them are able to push through, and I'm trying to kind of weave through and get onto the Screaming Beam catapults because they're actually starting to do some really good damage to my Thunders. I was really caught off guard. I was just like, oh, there's no way they're going to do anything, but they did some good work. But so far, we've gotten some huge trades. We took out the Chariots here on the side with our Devil Thunder firing squad, and plus the Tomb Scorpion really wasn't able to get away. High King Thorgrim came in, he used the Oath of Vengeance to lower its melee defense, and from there, Giant Slayers, with their 40 speed against its 14 speed at that point, were able to just send it into another dimension, which I was quite happy about. Anyways, we do have Dwarf Warriors getting in here. Some Longbeards were able to kind of weave through the seam. Very agile Dwarves, very dangerous over short distances. So these guys were able to get in, and now they're chasing down the Screaming Beam catapult crew, which has 20 speed against my 26, so I will catch them eventually, but I don't think it's worth chasing them like this whole time. So I basically pulled them over here to pin in this catapult crew. But yeah, good play from my opponent, pulling off the artillery piece. Now on the other side, Ark and the Black and Company still running through my forces. His Chariots here are in relatively good shape. I haven't really been able to kind of pin him down. I use my Runes of Wrath and Ruin. They're on cooldown now, so I don't have too many other slowing effects. The catapults in the meantime still shooting in against my Thunders. And yeah, I was really surprised at how effective those Screaming catapults were against my Dwarven gun line. Like, I think like 3 or 4 Thunders is pretty staple against Tomb Kings. Like, you're going to see it in most matchups in which you're playing against Dwarves. But yeah, that was really nasty. Spirit Leech coming down to the Miners over here, trying to, I think he meant to click on the Thunders, but he actually only got the Miners. But a nice charge coming in. The Cherries just tearing through this Dwarven formation here. And it looks like the lore passive or the racial passive is going to be going down for the Tomb Kings as they have lost a certain number of models. So the Ushopti summon will be coming soon, I'm sure. So Ark and the Black and Company in the back are able to get on my Thunderers here. So this one group is pushed off. I have another group over here that's very tattered. And my third group, I think, is the only one that's still somewhat functional. Although it looks like pretty much all my guns were pushed off. Yeah, in the back, it looks like his horsemen were able to chase him down. And on top of that, I had some miners defending the cannon, and he sent all his horsemen back there, and I really wasn't able to, fight them off with just some miners. I didn't think it was worth staying back there and defending it. I thought just bringing the pressure, shutting down the catapults would be a little bit more efficient. So as far as the balance of power goes, it's pretty even. Maybe a slight advantage here for the Dwarves as High King Thorgrim and the Brunesmiths are fighting shoulder to shoulder with the Dragonback Slayers. Should be able to karate chop a lot of these skeletons and push them back. But these skeleton boys, they got some wheels, but with the Dragonback Slayers on their tails, they're going to be down to 18 speed, and Thorgrim and company should be able to crumble them. And basically at this point, I try and get the Giant Slayers up and around these guys. I use a Rune of Wrath and Ruin, a little bit preemptive there, but it looks like it was a bit of a misplay because I didn't really see all the skeletons here until it was too late, and then I had to run around them, get on these guys, and by the time I get there, the Rune of Wrath and Ruin is inactive. So very well played to my opponent. Wasted 2 of my abilities and, just got the business done. On the flank here, we do have some Longbeards who finally were able to catch one of these Screaming Beam catapult crews. They've been very slippery, and my opponent's been doing a really good job kind of pulling them off and re-engaging them. But for the most part, we should be able to take out this crew here. Longbeards, of course, have good combat stats, especially when compared to these skeleton artillery crews who are rocking 6 melee defense. So you can see they're getting crumped pretty quick. Obviously in guard modes, so they're still shooting, but Dwarf Warriors are fighting skeleton spears, miners against spears here. Pretty much an insignificant part of the battlefield. Now over here we do have some miners and Longbeards fighting, or Longbeards and Dwarf Warriors. Should be able to clean these guys up. My opponent still does have 1 catapult online, which is firing into the blob and doing some okay damage against the Giant Slayers. And if he can wear those guys down, that's going to be his way into this game, really. I would say I have a slight advantage right now as it pertains to the battlefield, but if he can finish off my Slayers, isolate Thorgrim with a bunch of spears and just tar pit and cycle charge with Chariots and Spirit Leech with Arkin, I think he has a decent chance. But nonetheless, it looks like I am pulling ahead in the balance of power here at the 5-minute mark, as I do get a Rune of Wrath and Ruin on the Skeleton Horsemen. It's really nice. At first I didn't like that change for the Dwarves. I was kind of like, oh man, I missed the damage, but getting that slow is really nice. I mean, it's almost like a Tormentor Sword. Not quite as good, but nonetheless, the Slayers are just doing belly flops and flying Dwarven karate kicks here, and you can see a lot of these horses are going to be falling. Should be able to get away, maybe restabilize their leadership as they are back up to 8 right now, but nonetheless some decent damage on those guys. Over here we have Skeleton Spears fighting Longbeards, and Longbeards are going to be really tough for my opponent to take down as well. Those bad boys have incredible leadership. I think their base values are like 80, like something in that ballpark, and they're also immune to psychology, great armor values, and he has lost his Tomb Scorpion very, very early. So really the only thing he has to kind of plow my infantry effectively is going to be the Skeleton Chariots plus the Skeleton Summons coming in from Ark and the Black. So over here, Longbeards and company are finally able to shut down the last catapult, so this thing is probably not going to be firing for much longer, as these proud Jawi warriors are going to be shield bashing and taking out these skeleton spearmen here. Man, they got some hops in those bony horses right there, but it's going to be really hard. Thorgrim is a powerhouse of a character. I've seen many games with Dwarves where Thorgrim has really just kind of put the game on his back if he's like the last character. Plus the High King buff goes off, just rallying all the other Dwarves. He can be a real just kind of brick house to take down. So right here we have some skeleton chariots that are a little bit caught up. It looks like maybe a little bit mucked up in their own artillery pieces. So I do use a Rune of Wrath and Ruin here, and the dwarves are going to be coming in just fully powerful. Anti-large, not armor piercing on those ones, but again, they do have the slowing ability, so they're going to be able to slow down these chariots, and the chariots are not going to be able to get away. Rune of Wrath and Ruin plus the power of the Dragonback going to put them down to 8 speed, which is insanely slow, and from there we should be able to get the chariots. I grab the other group of dwarf warriors, or giant slayers, excuse me, and I pull them up and around the top, and I try and pin to the chariots, but it looks like he might be able to get away with a couple of these guys, but giant slayers will hit them like absolute trucks. So if we look around the battlefield, my opponent does have some skeleton spears. He's also hiding his crews, so he has these Screaming Beam Catapult crews. So if he's going to be able to pull me apart and force me to kind of chase Arkin, for example, he's going to be able to kind of troll me a little bit with these things. Pull them back on, and when I chase him, he can run because, again, I don't want to be chasing those things down because in the meantime, Arkin and the other units will be picking off assets in my army. But nonetheless here, we have the last of the summoned skeletons coming down. These are the skeleton warriors buffed up by the Liber Mortis, to give them 44% physical resist. Such a damn good item. But I do also have the Slayers, and the Slayers are a big issue for him because I can chase down the crews. The crews have 20 speed, and Slayers are very quick with 40 speed. So we do get a Rune of Wrath and Ruin on these guys here as they were looking to maybe cycle charge into the Giant Slayers, but the Giant Slayers coming in with those big old just whomping axes and doing a lot of work here, and it looks like these Skeleton Chariots might have met their end. 21 speed, the Slayers are essentially twice as fast, so they're able to close the distance, and I love playing with Slayers. I'm just reading Demon Slayer right now from the Gotrek and Felix novel, and there's a scene in the beginning where Gotrek is like having a drinking competition with another Slayer, and it's so good. But anyways, these guys chasing those guys down. Skeleton Chariots are crumbling. Should be enough to maybe finish them off. Negative 34, and they're losing HP rapidly. So at this point, it's kind of High King Thorgrim leading his people back into the Age of Glory. And here they come, going after these skeleton spears. I'm basically doing everything in my power to make sure that the spears aren't fighting Slayers because, you know, spears will trade somewhat effectively with Slayers. Slayers have light armor, so every little poke that comes in from these 113 skeleton spearmen is going to be making a significant difference. Now here, my opponent is able to juke me out a little bit. 28 speed against my 26 on Longbeards. Man, Longbeards are really slow, so I actually can't catch him here. So what I do is I get another group of Dwarf Warriors, and I pin these guys in the front. So we're going to get that good old Dwarf sandwich here. And yeah, should be able to kind of lock these guys in. So here come the Dwarf Warriors, and the Longbeards are just hot in pursuit. And Dwarfs have pretty good mass. So you can see a lot of the skeletons actually get kind of caught up there. So it's going to kind of halt my opponent's advance. In the meantime, Giant Slayers and Dragback Slayers are going to be going after the Screaming Skull Catapult crew. A little bit of fast forwarding here as there is some cat and mouse. Arkin the Black does charge in for a moment, but the Giant Slayers are able to get some good chops here. Rune of Wrath and Ruin is active as well. So he's down to 24 speed, but a really nice skeleton summon from my opponent is able to kind of tar pit my Giant Slayers, who've earned a whopping triple chevron. Man, that is brutal, because they certainly did not start with those. And Dragback Slayers, of course, can't earn chevrons over the course of the game, as they are a regiment of renown. So if we look over here, you can see that the Dwarf Warriors are going to be hunting down the Screaming Skull Catapult crew, and it's looking pretty grim for those guys, getting chased off the edge of the map. Arkin the Black and company are cursed, and the proud Jawi Warriors are able to karate chop that foul Necromancer. So well played to my opponent. It was a really fun game for sure. He brought a super unorthodox build, like the quad Screaming Beam Catapult. That deserves accolades of its own, and it actually didn't do that bad. It was able to really wreck my gun line. I mean, my Thunders got 4-0, 39 kills. They did kill like a chariot before they went out, but for the most part, those catapults actually did a pretty good job. And yeah, like I was really impressed with that. They're like dirt cheap, and I don't know. I still don't know if I would call it competitive because yeah, it did kill those guys. But on that same note, you're also investing a ton of money that can't deal with the rest of the Dwarven army. But against like Dwarf players who like to just kind of sit and be static, I think it could be a little bit, you know, scary if you're not used to like advancing and things like that. And obviously, I don't know about going more than one cannon, but had I brought 2 cannons, I probably would not have advanced. I would have just shot at those guys. But with just one, you know, I was kind of forced into that situation. But yeah, Dwarf Warriors and Longbeards were great. Slayers were MVPs for sure, 194, 143. Thorgrim is an absolute beast. I mean, even Cetra, or those big, powerful kind of Sphinx-type characters, will have problems fighting Thorgrim. He's a meaty combatant. He has like 6,000 HP. Oath of Vengeance is really good. He applies really good buffs with the Vengeance. What is it called? I think it's just the High King buff, and I think that's what it's called. But yeah, he's a powerhouse of unit. I really do like Thorgrim quite a bit, and a lot of Tomb King's players aren't going to go too missile heavy, so he's not that vulnerable of a target. Sometimes you see you shop 2 great bows, but they lose really heavily to cannon play, so I still don't think you have to respect that too much. But yeah, I think this is a fairly standard competitive dwarf build against Tomb Kings. The only thing you could potentially change is cutting Thorgrim, getting a cheaper lord, and going wider. That would be my 2 cents. Maybe like another cannon and a couple more supporting troops, and that would be it. So for my opponent's army, again, very out of the box, very fun stuff for sure, and he did a good job with what he had. The chariots did really get punished by the Runes of Wrath and Ruin, but the catapults were able to really wreck my gun line, and, you know, I think had he been a little bit more careful with the Tomb Scorpion, not let it get caught out and killed that quickly, it could have been a different game for sure. So well played to my opponent, Lord Zeus. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Dwarf vs. Tomb King game, and we'll see you guys on the other side. Take care.